Once upon a time, in a kingdom of tall towers and silver rivers, there lived a princess whose eyes sparkled like morning dew and whose hair shimmered like spun gold. People said her laughter could lift the whole court. But the princess had a problem as bright as her beauty. She was very proud. She looked down on everyone, and whenever a brave young man asked for her hand, she found a reason to say no. The king, her father, worried for her. He loved his daughter dearly and wished her to be kind and happy. So he planned a grand feast and invited every suitable young man from far and wide. Kings, dukes, princes, counts, barons, and noble gentlemen arrived in fine boots and brighter hopes, all lined up in order of rank. The princess was led past them, step by step, to choose a husband. She peered at each suitor and shook her head. "This one is too serious," she whispered. "That one looks like he never laughs. That one moves like a goose. This one stands like a sleepy tree." One after another, she found a fault in every man. At last she came to a good and noble king, whose chin had a charming curve to it, just a little point. "Look," she teased with a tinkling laugh, "his chin is shaped like a thrush's beak." From that day, the whole court called the poor man King Thrushbeard, though he had done nothing wrong at all. The king was deeply troubled. In a moment of worry, he made a promise that sounded like thunder in the bright hall. "Enough. You will marry the very next man who comes to this palace, whoever he may be." "Father, no!" the princess cried, but the words were already spoken. A few days later, a traveling musician came to the castle. He stood in the courtyard with a fiddle tucked under his chin and sang a tune as quick as a river and as warm as summer. People dropped coins into his cap. He was cheerful and clever, and his music made even the guards tap their toes. The king invited the fiddler in. The man bowed low and sang for the king and the princess. When he finished, he held out his hand with a smile. "A small gift for my music, Your Majesty." "Your song pleases me," said the king, and he said it kindly. "Your reward is this: my daughter will be your wife." "Father," the princess whispered, "please take back your words." But the promise had been made. A priest was brought. The princess and the fiddler, to everyone's astonishment, were married on the spot. "I take you to be my beloved husband," she said with a trembling voice. "I take you to be my beloved wife," he answered, his eyes gentle. As soon as the ceremony ended, the king kissed his daughter and said softly, "My child, a beggar's wife cannot live in a palace. Go with your husband now and make your own way. Learn the world and let the world teach you." The fiddler took her hand and led her out of the castle gates. She walked beside him on foot, the sky wide and blue above them. Birds flitted along their path, and one brown thrush in particular hopped near and sang a bright, knowing little song. They came to a great forest, green as stories. "To whom does this beautiful forest belong?" the princess asked, eyes wide. "To King Thrushbeard," said the fiddler. "If you had married him, it would be yours." "Oh," she sighed, "if only I had married King Thrushbeard." They came to a wide meadow, all dandelions and buttercups. "And this lovely field, who owns it?" "King Thrushbeard," the fiddler answered. "If you had married him, it would be yours." "If only I had married King Thrushbeard," she whispered, and the thrush sang a soft reminder above them. They reached a bustling city with shining windows and busy streets. "And this splendid city, who rules it?" "King Thrushbeard," said the fiddler. "If you had married him, it would be yours." Oh, if only I had married King Thrushbeard. The fiddler stopped and looked at her, kindly but firm. It saddens me to hear you wish for another man again and again. Am I not good enough for you? The princess bit her lip. She had no answer. The thrush tucked its beak under its wing, as if hiding a secret. They came at last to a shabby little hut, leaning as if it were tired. "What a tiny house," she said softly. "Who owns this?" "This," said the fiddler, "is our home, yours and mine." The princess drew a breath and lifted her chin. "Then we will make it bright," she said bravely. Inside there were no servants, no polished floors, no golden cups. Only a crooked table, a dented kettle, and a broom that looked like it might wander off if not watched. The fiddler smiled. "Light the fire and cook supper, dear wife. I am tired." The princess had never lit a fire or cooked a meal, but she wouldn't give up. She coaxed the fire with kind words as if it were a shy animal. She asked the kettle to sing and tapped it to a tune the fiddler had played. It took time and the fiddler helped, but at last they ate a simple supper. Afterward, they slept side by side in the little bed, the princess listening to the night sounds and wondering who she was now. In the morning, the fiddler woke early. "The house needs sweeping," he said. The princess nodded. She rustled the broom like a stubborn pony and laughed at herself when she fell in a small puff of dust. Every day she tried something new, washing, mending, tidying, making the crooked table a little less crooked with folded cloth and cheerful flowers in a cracked cup. For a few days they lived like this, and though it was hard, she felt a new feeling growing in her heart, something small and warm as a candle flame. But the food ran out. "Wife," said the fiddler gently, "we cannot live on nothing. You must earn your keep. Perhaps try weaving baskets." He brought her willow branches, and the princess set to work. She listened to the willows whisper and tried to make them into baskets, but the twigs pricked her soft hands and left tiny red kisses that stung. "This will not do," said the fiddler. "Perhaps you can spin thread." She tried again, humming to keep steady. The fibers were coarse and caught on her fingers, and though she worked with all her might, the thread snarled and snapped. The fiddler sighed and touched her shoulder. "You are not meant for this kind of work, it seems. I will make pots and pans, and you will sell them in the market." The princess swallowed. "If people from my father's palace see me selling pots, they will laugh." Hunger gave her courage. She went to the market with her chin up and her sleeves rolled. At first, things went well. People bought her pots gladly, partly because she was so kind and shy, and partly because she looked like sunlight wandered into the square. Some customers even paid and forgot to take their pots, which made her cheeks pink with surprise. With that money, they lived for a while. When the money was gone, the fiddler bought more pots. She set them neatly in a row like a shining chorus, and the thrush perched above the stall, chirping a cheerful tune. But just then a merry, careless soldier clattered through the square on his horse. He did not see the stall or the thrush. His stirrup clipped the edge, and the pots tumbled, clinking and clattering, until there were only sorry shards. "I am so sorry," the soldier called, but he was swept away by the crowd. The princess gathered the pieces one by one. She did not cry for long. She took a breath, then another, and went home with empty hands, but a stubborn, hopeful heart. "Who told you to sit at a street corner with breakable goods?" the fiddler scolded gently, and then softened his voice. "Stop your tears, dear heart. I have arranged work for you at the royal palace. You will be a kitchen maid. There at least you will earn your food." And so the princess scrubbed pots on floors in the king's kitchen. She wore a plain dress and tied her hair back and sang as she worked. softly at first and then braver, as though the broom and the spoons for her audience. In her pockets she kept 2 small jars to save crumbs and soup skins for supper at home. She shared a bit with the little thrush that kept finding its way through the window and onto the sill, tapping the glass like a friend. News flew through the palace like ribbons in wind. A great wedding was announced, the marriage of the king's eldest son. The kitchen hummed like a hive. Cakes rose, sugar glittered. The princess slipped to the doorway of the grand hall to watch, her hands still damp from washing. The lights sparkled. Music drifted through the air like magic itself. Ladies swirled in silks, and gentlemen bowed until the room seemed to ripple. Her heart ached as she remembered the way she had laughed at those who came to her once, and how her pride had dropped her from a high branch to a humble doorstep. She pressed the 2 little jars in her pockets and promised herself, as firmly as a vow, to be kinder, braver, better. Then the bridegroom entered, dressed in velvet and silk, with gold chains looping like sunshine around his neck. It was King Thrushbeard. He saw the beautiful kitchen maid by the door, her eyes bright and unsure, and crossed the hall with a smile. "Will you dance with me?" he asked. "Oh no," she whispered, frightened and ashamed. "I am only a kitchen maid." "Come," he said, and held out his hand, not forcing, only inviting. The music rose. She took a breath, then took his hand. They danced. They turned once, twice, 3 times, and just then the strings on her pockets gave way. The jars tumbled out with a clink, and soup and crumbs spilled like a small, silly waterfall across the shining floor. Guests gasped, then covered their smiles with their hands. The princess blushed red as a poppy. "Let me go," she said, and tried to run. "Do not be afraid," said King Thrushbeard. He stopped her gently, with kindness in his eyes that made her stand very still. "Do not be afraid of laughter or mistakes. Listen." His voice changed like a door opening to a sunny room. "I am the fiddler who lived with you in the hut," he said. "I was also the soldier who broke your pots. Forgive me. I did it not to hurt you, but to help your proud heart find its way to kindness and courage." The princess pressed her hands together. "I am the one who should ask forgiveness," she said. "I laughed at people who came to me with honest hearts. I forgot that a person's worth is not their chin or their coat, but the goodness they carry. I have done wrong." "The hard days are over," said King Thrushbeard, and his eyes were bright and happy. "If you wish it, let us begin again and celebrate our true wedding, not because of rank or pride, but because we have both learned and both forgiven." "I do wish it," she said, with a smile that was new and real. Servants brought the finest clothes, but this time the princess's dress was only the second loveliest thing about her. The first was her kind face. Her father came to her with tears in his eyes and took her hands. "My child," he said, "I spoke rashly once, but it seems that promise led your heart to wisdom. I am proud of you." The thrush sang from the window, a ribbon of music as sweet as spring. The kitchen maids cheered, the guests clapped. The musicians played a tune that sounded very much like the one a fiddler had played long ago in a castle courtyard. The feast that followed sparkled, but not with gold or jewels. It sparkled with laughter and forgiveness. The princess danced with the king, with her father, with the cooks and the stable boys, and finally with King Thrushbeard again, who looked at her as though he had been waiting for this moment all his life. And if you had been there, you would have danced too.
you would have seen how a proud princess became a brave, kind queen. You would have heard the thrush sing as the moon rose and the silver river shone. And you would have carried home the quiet truth the story kept singing, that hearts grow brighter with kindness, that courage often looks like trying again, and that forgiveness can turn the smallest hut into a palace, and the simplest song into a royal wedding waltz. They lived happily ever after, not because everything was easy, but because they chose every day to be good and to believe in each other.